The tennis world thought it had already seen the biggest shock of the week. Then Eala walked back onto the grass and threatened to rewrite the entire script of the Berlin Open. What began as a wild-card appearance had transformed into something nobody could fully explain. Fans called it a dream run. Analysts called it a breakthrough. Opponents were running out of words altogether. Because every time the young Filipina stepped onto the court, another prediction collapsed. Another favorite disappeared. Another impossible chapter became reality. But now the challenge standing in front of her was different. More dangerous. More experienced. This wasn't simply another top player waiting across the net. This was a woman who had spent more than a decade surviving the highest levels of professional tennis. A former world number 3. A multiple-time champion. A veteran who had just conquered Rome and arrived in Berlin looking stronger than ever. And for the first time during Eala's remarkable run, many believed the miracle was finally about to end. Just 24 hours earlier, thousands inside the stadium had watched something that felt almost unreal. Eala entered her match against world number 2 Elina Svitolina as the clear underdog. On paper, the matchup looked brutal. Svitolina was a Grand Slam champion, one of the most feared servers in the game. A player capable of destroying opponents in under an hour when she found her rhythm. And early on, it looked exactly like that kind of day. The Kazakh star stormed ahead and grabbed control of the opening set. The scoreboard favored the favorite. The momentum favored the favorite. The crowd expected the favorite to pull away. Then something changed. Nobody could pinpoint the exact moment. Maybe it was a single point. Maybe it was a look in Eala's eyes. Maybe it was the confidence that had been quietly building throughout the tournament. Whatever it was, the entire match suddenly shifted. The player who had looked overwhelmed began dictating rallies. The player expected to survive started attacking. Point by point, game by game, she dragged herself back into the fight. Before anyone realized what was happening, the lead was gone. What followed stunned the tennis world. Svitolina's power was neutralized. Her rhythm disappeared. The Filipino wild card moved across the grass with remarkable freedom, anticipating shots before they happened. Her left-handed angles created problems that even elite players struggled to solve. The rallies became uncomfortable for the favorite. Pressure started changing sides of the net. By the time the final point landed, the scoreboard told a story very few had imagined. Eala had defeated the world number 2 in straight sets. The stadium erupted. Commentators scrambled for superlatives. Fans around the world rushed to social media. And suddenly the question was no longer whether Eala belonged at this level. The question became how far she could actually go. Yet what made the victory even more fascinating was what happened afterward. There was no extended celebration. No emotional victory lap. No time to fully absorb the biggest win of her career. Because waiting ahead was another mountain. Another elite opponent. Another test that seemed almost unfair after everything she had already survived. Elina Svitolina. A name that carries weight throughout women's tennis. For years, she had built a reputation as one of the sport's most relentless competitors. Not through overwhelming power. Not through flashy shot-making. But through precision, intelligence, and a refusal to give opponents anything easy. She was the type of player who slowly dismantled confidence. The type of player who turned small mistakes into devastating losses. The type of player younger stars hated facing. And she was arriving in the quarterfinals with frightening form. While Eala had been fighting through emotional battles and headline-grabbing upsets, Svitolina had been quietly destroying opponents. Match after match, she looked calm, efficient, ruthless. Games disappeared quickly. Opportunities vanished. Before many fans even noticed, she had stormed into the final 8 while barely breaking a sweat. That contrast made the matchup impossible to ignore. On one side stood experience. On the other stood momentum. One player had spent years proving herself against the world's best. The other was suddenly becoming the story of the tournament. And that is exactly why the tennis world couldn't stop talking about this quarterfinal. Because beneath the rankings and statistics was a much bigger question. What happens when a player with nothing to lose faces someone who has spent her entire career protecting everything she has built? The answer wasn't obvious. Svitolina entered as the favorite for good reason. Her resume stretched across more than a decade of elite competition. Grand Slam semifinal appearances, deep runs at every major tournament, multiple trophies, multiple comebacks, countless victories over top-ranked opponents. There were very few situations she hadn't experienced before. Pressure didn't scare her. Hostile crowds didn't scare her. Momentum swings didn't scare her. She had lived through all of it. But what nobody could ignore was the fact that Eala seemed completely fearless. That might have been the most dangerous weapon of all. Because every giant she had faced in Berlin entered with expectations. Every favorite carried pressure. Every opponent understood what they were supposed to do. Eala didn't carry that burden. She stepped onto the court free. Free to attack. Free to take risks. Free to believe. And sometimes that kind of freedom becomes impossible to stop. As anticipation built across Berlin, fans began revisiting the path that had brought Eala to this moment. It wasn't just that she was winning. It was how she was winning. She wasn't sneaking through draws. She wasn't relying on luck. She was beating legitimate contenders. One after another. The confidence was growing. The belief was spreading. And with every victory, something else was happening behind the scenes. Opponents were beginning to take her seriously. That may sound obvious now, but early in the tournament many viewed her as an interesting story. A promising young player enjoying a great week. By the quarterfinals, that perception had changed completely. Now she was becoming a threat. A real one. And perhaps the clearest sign came from the reactions of fellow professionals. Players understood something that statistics couldn't fully capture. Eala's game was translating beautifully to grass. Her movement looked natural. Her timing looked sharp. Her decision-making under pressure kept improving. Most importantly, she wasn't panicking in the biggest moments. When break points appeared, she fought. When momentum disappeared, she stayed calm. When matches became uncomfortable, she found solutions. Those are not the habits of a player hoping for an upset. Those are the habits of a player learning how to win. But if Eala represented the future, Svitolina represented something equally powerful. Survival. The Ukrainian veteran had endured every challenge imaginable throughout her career. Injuries, expectations, critics, generational shifts. Through it all, she remained relevant, competitive, dangerous. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because great players evolve. And Svitolina had spent years mastering that process. She knew how to frustrate aggressive opponents. She knew how to absorb pressure. She knew how to turn matches into mental battles. Most importantly, she knew how to expose inexperience. Which raised a fascinating possibility. What if Berlin wasn't about another upset? What if this was the moment a veteran finally stopped the runaway train? The closer match day approached, the more impossible it became to predict what would happen next. And nobody realized just how dramatic the answer would become. The atmosphere inside Steffi Graf Stadium felt different long before the first ball was struck. You could sense it in the crowd, feel it in the conversations, hear it in every prediction being debated across social media. This was no longer just another quarterfinal. It had become a referendum on belief itself. Was Eala's astonishing run a glimpse of the future, or was it about to collide with the reality of experience? As both players walked onto the court, the contrast was impossible to miss. On one side stood Elina Svitolina, carrying the confidence of a champion who had spent years battling the best players in the world. Her body language was calm, controlled, familiar with the occasion. On the other side stood a 21-year-old wildcard carrying the hopes of an entire nation. The Philippine flags scattered throughout the stands seemed brighter than ever. Every cheer felt louder. Every point felt heavier. Yet what surprised many people was how relaxed Eala appeared. No signs of intimidation. No signs of doubt. Just focus. The kind of focus that comes from knowing you've already survived battles everyone expected you to lose. The opening games immediately revealed something important. Eala had not arrived simply hoping to compete. She had arrived believing she could win. Her left-handed serve immediately forced Svitolina into uncomfortable positions. Her movement looked explosive. Her shot selection carried conviction. Instead of reacting to the veteran, she was making the veteran react to her. That alone was shocking, because very few players managed to impose themselves on Svitolina so quickly. The rallies became fierce almost instantly. Every point felt like a chess match played at full speed. Svitolina tried to extend exchanges, testing the younger player's patience. Eala responded with fearless aggression, using angles and changes of direction to create openings where none seemed to exist. The crowd sensed something special developing. Neither player was willing to blink. Neither player was willing to surrender momentum. The first set became a battle of nerve, a battle of identity, a battle between what had already been achieved and what might still be possible. Games passed without separation. The tension continued building. Every hold felt crucial. Every return game felt dangerous. Then came the moment that shifted everything. With the score locked in a dead heat, Eala earned an opportunity. Just one. Against players like Svitolina, sometimes one chance is all you get. The rally that followed felt endless. Both players pushed each other to the limit. Shot after shot. Angle after angle. Defense turning into attack. Attack turning into defense. Then suddenly, the veteran blinked. A ball drifted wide. The break belonged to Eala. The roar from the crowd exploded across the stadium. For the first time all afternoon, the veteran was chasing. Moments later, Eala stepped forward to serve for the set. The pressure was immense. But pressure had become familiar territory during this tournament. Point by point, she closed the door. The opening set was hers. Suddenly, the possibility of another upset felt very real. But champions don't build legendary careers by disappearing after setbacks. And what happened next reminded everyone exactly why Svitolina had remained among the world's elite for so long. The second set belonged to experience. The Ukrainian adjusted. She started reading patterns more effectively. She absorbed Eala's pace and redirected it with remarkable precision. Returns became deeper. Rallies became more uncomfortable. The openings that had existed earlier began disappearing. For the first time in the match, Eala looked under sustained pressure. Break points arrived. Games became longer. Momentum shifted. The veteran was forcing the younger player into uncomfortable decisions. This was the side of Svitolina that had haunted opponents for years. Patient, relentless, clinical. Every mistake carried consequences. Every short ball invited punishment. The set slowly tilted in one direction. Despite Eala's resistance, despite her determination, despite the crowd desperately trying to lift her energy, the veteran found another gear. By the time the second set ended, the match was level. One set each. Everything would be decided in the third. And this is where the story became bigger than tennis. Because now the match wasn't only about tactics. It wasn't only about rankings. It wasn't only about a semi-final place. It became a test of belief. The deciding set opened with both players knowing exactly what was at stake. For Svitolina, victory would restore order. For Eala, victory would create history. The rallies grew longer. The pressure grew heavier. Every point felt enormous. Nobody in the stadium wanted to look away. The veteran struck first. The youngster answered. The veteran responded. The youngster refused to leave. Again and again. Neither player could escape. Neither player could pull away. The scoreboard kept moving, but the tension only intensified. Then came another twist. Eala found a breakthrough. A stunning sequence of aggressive tennis handed her a crucial advantage. Suddenly she was ahead. Suddenly the crowd could almost taste history. But history rarely arrives without resistance. Svitolina fought back immediately. Years of experience surfaced at exactly the right moment. She clawed her way back into the contest, refusing to let the younger player escape. Now every game felt like a final. Every point felt like a championship point. Every mistake felt devastating. The pressure was almost unbearable. And yet Eala remained composed. That was perhaps the most remarkable part of all. Not her movement, not her shot-making, not even her courage. It was her calm. The ability to remain clear-headed while standing on the edge of the biggest victory of her career. the ability to trust herself when everything was on the line. As the set approached its climax, the crowd fell into a strange rhythm. Cheers. Silence. Guess. Applause. Anticipation. 25,000 emotions unfolding at once. Then the moment arrived. The opportunity every athlete dreams about. One chance to finish it. One chance to change everything. The stadium held its breath. Eala stepped to the line. Years of work. Years of sacrifice. Years of believing. All condensed into a single moment. The serve exploded off her racket. The return came back. One final exchange followed. And then it happened. The ball drifted beyond reach. The point was over. The match was over. History had arrived. For a brief second, the stadium seemed frozen. Then reality crashed in all at once. The crowd erupted. Flags waved wildly. Voices merged into one deafening roar. And in the center of it all stood Eala. Victorious. Overwhelmed. Almost unable to process what she had just accomplished. She dropped to her knees. Emotion poured out. Not because of one match. Not because of one tournament. But because of everything the moment represented. The sacrifices nobody saw. The setbacks nobody remembered. The doubts she had been forced to overcome. All of it had led here. 3 consecutive victories over elite opposition. 3 statements to the tennis world. 3 reminders that a new contender was emerging. And perhaps the most remarkable part? This story wasn't finished. Not even close. Because Berlin had already changed the conversation around Eala. She was no longer being discussed as a promising prospect. She was no longer being described as a future star. Those labels suddenly felt outdated. Now people were asking a different question. Could she challenge for the biggest titles in the sport? Could she make a deep run at Wimbledon? Could she stand toe-to-toe with the very best players in the world and win? Only time would answer those questions. But one thing was already undeniable. The tennis world had witnessed a transformation. A young player entered Berlin hoping to prove she belonged. A contender emerged. And somewhere beyond the celebration, beyond the headlines, beyond the rankings and statistics, another realization was quietly spreading across the sport. The players at the top could feel it. The fans could feel it. The future was no longer approaching. It had arrived. And its name was Eala.